because it's not like I'm trying to discredit him or anything. It's just if he reads Hebrew and I got a book for a Hebrew translation from a person, then I can compare the two and see what it is. And it kind of makes sense on the rant part because if you're looking at, I think that's how you say it, ziggurat. If you look at
Hmm.
it, it's like you can see how it looks like more like a rant, you know.
Right. Yeah.
So I was like,
Um,
that kind of makes sense. I said, I could see that. I could see that. I said, I could see how that interpretation could be that would be one or two ways.
right. But going off of like the etymology, and when you start dealing with again, and this is something Jeff Benner stresses, is the difference between Eastern philosophy and Western philosophy, and how like latter wouldn't really be. That's um, a Greek definition, and they're the difference is abstract and concrete. Eastern philosophy, they think more concrete. Western philosophy, we do a lot of abstract. Everything is like holy, holy grace. These are things that we can't draw, smell, we can't see with any of the senses. We can't touch, feel, none of that. Um, but that was how the Hebrews thought. So to like, we have to, when looking up the etymology, we can't go back to like where the word originally came from. We have to go according to the Bible and like where their definitions derive from, and we know that their definitions derive from the Greek, and that's when the whole Western philosophy started pouring into the biblical text. But the one that I did see, I got this JPS Hebrew English Tanakh, and in this one it says he had a dream. Genesis 28:12. He had a dream. A stairway was set on the ground, and its top reached to the sky. The angels of God were going down. So this one uses stairway,
Right,
but
right.
down in the notes is it has B or ramp semicolon others ladder. So this was the only one I was able to find with the ramp reference. The JP Jewish, like this is like a Jewish Tanakh. So I don't like I don't hold it to too much too high of a standard because it's that's way later. So I like to go back to like as far back as we can get. And
Right. Same with me. Same with me.
so I like to reference the Israelite Samaritan Pentateuch and the Septuagint.
I got that.
Um,
I got Origin on my e-reader, so that's charging up actually right now on my Kindle. I think that's what they call it. No, that's interesting though because, like you said, you had one that said ramp, and then if you look at if you like the etymology, I got the online etymology dictionary up. I pull those up, and you can get the origins of that, and I'll be posting that on there through the video. But that's pretty cool because um, the reason why I looked up the stuff in the first place was not that, like I said, not to discredit him, but he had quotations around ladder, so that
mhm.
think like, okay, what else could it mean? So I took it upon myself, okay, hey, I got a Hebrew translation Bible right here in the house. Why don't I just open up, crack it up, and see exactly what it say? And I found
um,
ladder was ramp, and I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Then I learned about the ziggurats, and I was like, oh, now that even
so
makes sense. So I was like, okay,
does he have in that Hebrew Bible? Does he have the Hebrew script parallel to it, or is it just all in English?
that's all in English.
All right.
But I,
Like I said, I'm curious to how he did that because when dealing with the etymology, like the first thing that we'll go to is the Brown's Dictionary Lexicon or strong concordance, and like it's all the same word and it all means ladder. Um, like here in the Septuagint, it says, "And dreamed, and behold, a ladder fixed on the earth." Again, they use ladder. This is from the Septuagint. The Israelite Samaritan Pentateuch, which was still wrote in the Paleo script. Um, they say, "And he had a dream, and behold, a ladder was set on the earth."
Mm.
So then we'll go to, I like Jeff Bennett because he uses the Paleo script. So we're going back to as far back as we can go. And so the strong concordance number for ladder, which I believe is Salam, uh,
Yeah, Salam.
Sulam. So
Mhm.
Sulam is strong concordance number 5551. And when we cross reference that with the ancient Hebrew lexicon of the Bible by Jeff Benner, it takes us to number 1334 JP. And here he has the definition Sulam, which is it's a 3-letter word, so it's a parent root. So the or it's a child root, but the parent root is the definition lift or basket.
Mhm.
But when we go to the one that he had reference for strong concordance number 5551, it says ladder. And the definition for a ladder is used to raise up. So in essence, a ramp can be a ladder. If that's the biblical definition that they're using, then a
Mhm.
ramp can be a ladder. Man,
All right. So when when it talks about the Jacob ladder, what do you understand for it? Do you think that it's a connection between heaven and earth?
you just went out, bro.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, all right. So with the Jacob's ladder, what do you understand from it? Do you think it was a connection from heaven to earth?
Uh no, not necessarily. Uh I think it was more along the lines of ancient technology and again, these people not having the technological um, framework to put it into words. So we
Right.
are given, just like if they were to see a airplane, like, and again, they're not using abstract thinking. They're using concrete thinking. So they wouldn't think of it as an airplane. They would think about it as the big heavy thing flying in the sky.
Mhm.
And that's the difference between abstract and concrete. But no, so I'm more so on along the lines of the Bible is filled with a lot of ancient technology. Hence the Joseph Bloomrich and the patent he did on the omnidirectional wheel, which he said was found through a debate that he was supposed to be having with what's the guy's name? The German guy with Chariots of the Gods and
Oh, Eric Von Doniken?
yes. He was actually trying to disprove him, and in the process, he came up with
Proven.
he came up with the omnidirectional wheel, which is used on like
Oh,
rover missions in Mars and stuff to kind of ride on the terrain. And even when you're dealing with the vision in Ezekiel, that's more of the vision that you get when dealing with that wheel. I was gonna give the patent number. Oh, here it goes. I gotta print up all my stuff.
yeah, he was like a NASA engineer or something like that.
Yeah, he was like the chief NASA engineer in like 1975, I believe.
Yeah, I read about that. How the wheel can move, and I think they're using it today or something like that.
Right,
Is that
NASA uses it today for their rover missions, but it's the what makes it so good. It's all terrain, and you might get stuck on something. And of course, you're dealing with a machine, so it might be hard to go back and forth. But now the omnidirectional wheel gives it the ability to go sideways. So
Right,
the
right.
wheels are still faced this way, but there's other wheels turning it so it's able to go almost anywhere. And
You know, a lot of inventors, because when Ezekiel seen that wheel, he seen that wheel in a vision. Now I looked up
right,
the etymology definition of vision, and I found what it meant, and basically it was inside an imagination of somebody's mind or whatever. I'm not sure exactly if that's what the writer meant when they put the word in there, but that's exactly what you can look up the definition of etymology and see exactly what it means. But the point is that it was seen in a vision, and I was just wondering, like, you know, okay, if it was a vehicle of some sort, um, that would be pretty awesome because that would explain the extraterrestrial theories and stuff like that. Them having advanced technology, and
mhm,
then it also explains the idea where a lot of inventors, like I know Nikola Tesla and a lot of other inventors, when they invented stuff, it was in a dreamlike state or meditation type state with their mind. That's why we have some of the things that we have now is because they were able to do that.
right.
So it shows okay, your mind is able to produce some things that is not normally accepted or known throughout the world. But the point is that it's interesting to know that your ideas, when you say technology, like, do you mean like, at least that's what I understand. Do you think it's something like some people say the Anunnaki is extraterrestrial from Nibiru? I know you don't believe the whole Nibiru theory type thing, but do you think it's like an extraterrestrial type people, or is it like what kind of technology you talk about?
Extraterrestrial, just as far as like they're not from here, because we get the common misconception that extraterrestrial means they look like whatever you want them to look like.
Yeah, like the
Um,
great.
I don't, I don't
Mhm.
think just dealing with the Bible. I don't think according to the text that I mean they look like men because even the text says it looked like a man inside.
There's only
Um,
one way a man looks is, I mean, we know the basic look of a man. We have different features, but we do
right, right.
the basic features: head, 2 arms, 2 legs, sexual organs, internal organs.
As far as what they look, I don't think it was far off because if I don't know, I'll leave that alone. But I just don't think it was. I don't think they were far off as far as looks. But
I mean, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference if somebody had the same fit that you have on right now. You wouldn't be able to tell the difference. I mean, of course, the fit would look different on them, but would you be able to tell the difference if they was whatever they looked like? Like in your opinion?
I'm not sure.
I
I'm
mean, see, that's all I'm saying.
yeah.
That's
I'm
it.
not. I don't go. I don't go into something I can't prove.
Right, right,
That's
right.
something I can't prove, and you kind of get you get a sense of what they were describing and who were they were describing, and not just the Bible. I'm talking about like uh
Popo Woo.
Egyptian texts who talk about the sages, right? The Popol Vuh, the Watahai tribes, the Hopis, um, all these separate texts that they talk about sages, and they have they make a distinction on they look different, even when dealing with the Book of Enoch and the birth of Abraham. He
Fair
was
though. That's what I only see is that they were fair, the most beautiful.
right, and like what is fair
Well,
when like even the what is it, the Egyptian Book of the Dead
I looked it
or
up
the
on
pyramid text. One of them talk about the seven sages.
yeah, pleasing to the sight. That's what the etymology version is. Pleasing to the sight. But that's one of them. Beautiful, handsome, attractive, of weather, bright, clear, pleasant, not rainy. I mean, yeah, we know not rainy because I mean I've heard, man, it's fair outside. But, but
Right.
yes, I mean basically the pleasing to the eye. I mean, of persons and body and features, also objects, places, and etc. Um, I mean, yeah, basically beautiful. I mean, so I mean, they were. I mean, but beautiful can be subjective, though. You know what I'm saying?
Right, right.
So,
So yeah, like you were speaking on the different states that people get in. They got like your body creates DMT. This is a good book. The Spirit Molecule DMT.
I actually
Um,
seen that on Amazon. You got that on Amazon? I think I have that in my
yeah,
cart. Yeah.
more than likely I got it on Amazon. But it talks about how your body naturally creates DMT through near-death experiences.
I know about.
And and I remember watching the show Are You Afraid of the Dark as a kid, and they had an episode on there where there was a chef, and the chef would scare people. He'd put them in this room, and he'd scare people, and as he's scaring them, he drained this juice out of them, and then he put it into a soup, charge $100 for the soup, and you could only buy it one time. Well,
Mm.
this is the same theory that runs along with Pizzagate, that whole scandal, and then like that's what they're saying is the fountain of youth, and that's all theory. But I got other good ones like Soma by Gordon Wasson. This is like the go-to for as far as like religious practices with mushrooms and hallucinogens, and it takes you through. He takes you through a lot of like ancient links, and it's pretty dope. That's a good book.
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna give me some. I think I'm gonna get that one. I ain't never seen that one. I'm
But
gonna have to.
I mean, throughout the text, we know that
It's the much.
they drunk. Like even when we're dealing with Revelations, everyone is afraid of the Book of Revelations. Revelations is literally a dream. You know what I mean? It wasn't something that actually happened. We also know that John was a drunk.
Yeah,
Now, we also know he probably was read it. If you believe it, what I mean, just following the narrative, he knew the text, so he was probably reading the text thoroughly. Now, I know when I read a lot and I get stuck on one subject, and if say I get drunk, inebriated, like my dreams at night are enhanced,
exactly.
especially if it's something I've been stuck on for so long. And when you read Revelations, that's almost what you see. That's why it's so easy to say, "Oh, I can find this in the Old Testament." Revelate all through Revelations, you can find those paraphrased verses in the Old Testament. It's because that's all I mean, he had a dream of the Old Testament. These are all scenarios that had already happened. But that's why I like following Paul Waller's work and Mario Biglino, because they make
Right.
the separation from the Greek text and the Hebrew text, and bring like when the Greek came in, they changed up a whole lot of things. Even in the
They took a whole lot more.
they really added on more than they took. They added on a lot more than they took, because what you say they took is what they took out the Bible, but what they added on is more than just like biblical. When we talk about like changing times, and as many times as our calendars have went through redactions, like we don't even know what year we're in. Then people want to run to Ethiopia and like, oh, Ethiopia, they're living on the right time. They're 8 years behind us, and
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, you're right. That you sure enough right about that. That is true on that side of the world. It is like eight, it's like, yeah, it's about 8 years, right?
7 years, I think,
Some
maybe seven or
yeah,
eight.
some about that is it's a few years I know for a fact behind what we are because
But they
I,
follow 13 moons. We
yes.
follow 12 moons. They follow 13 moons. And they follow like it's a natural golden ratio that's found on the back of a turtle shell. You'll
Mm.
find the
Yeah.
28 squares around and then the 13 in the middle, and that's how they base their calendar. Even a lot of indigenous people of America. Um,
Was it a sea
so
turtle?
most turtles, like almost all turtles, have this, and I'm really trying. Like I've seen turtles and have been able to count it, but
Mm.
I'm trying to find. I don't want to kill a turtle, but I'm trying to find a shell on the side of the road that I could take and clean up. But
So
Somebody
yeah.
didn't kill a turtle.
But when you find one, when you find it, clean it and just keep it, man. That'd be your
Yeah,
project. You know what I'm saying?
they sell them on Amazon, but they sell the little turtles, and I don't want. I want a big animal.
Right, right,
My
right.
family back home in Hawaii, I told them to send me one. They're like, man, it's against the law to kill one. If we get caught with a shell, they're gonna think we killed it.
Oh, really?
So
Dang.
I was like, all right.
No,
Yeah.
you're right. That's interesting because man, like the you talk about the months and the days and stuff like that, and it's interesting because we have changed our calendars a few times in the past, and I'm pretty sure we're gonna change it again because they talking about in some ways or one way or not that they're talking about changing daylight saving time and getting rid of it.
Well, Arizona hasn't had it for a long time.
Yeah.
So
But
it's
that's
like,
what So, but I mean, like, think about it. Their time, well, I mean, their time is in a different time zone and stuff like that. But if the whole world changes to that, that sets us back in, a few hundred years from now or whatever. Because I mean, one little day can change so much in 100 days or 100 years or whatnot.
well, that's just like, I mean, how we got to the Gregorian calendar now. They took out a whole bunch of days.
Yeah,
It was September 2nd was
they
the
did.
last day on 1775, and then it went from September 2nd to September 11th.
I read
And
some a pope did it too. He changed it. Changed it one day. He changed it by
yeah,
a day. I can't remember where I read it at. I'm not sure how credible it is, but
I did my first episode on my YouTube channel is on that's where the term April Fools comes from
oh,
because
really?
it used to be celebrated in April, but
Mm.
that was when the New Year's was. But then they changed it in like in England well before, like 200 years before.
Mhm.
But we finally caught up over here like the late 1700s. And then when they took out those 11 days in September, they started the new year in January for the first time. So all the people who were still practicing the old way of celebrating on April 1st, that was where the term April Fools came from because they were a fool for celebrating the new year in April. But even when you go by the Hebrew Bible and the Hebrew calendar, um, their beginning of the year was around the same time, spring. That's when everything comes back up. So to them, that was a new year, a new beginning.
Mhm.
Um, our new year is in the deadest time. Like, what is new about the deadest season? If we're thinking how ancients thought, and they're thinking through seasons and through the sun, and that's when you get to the whole story with Jesus and the resurrection and the sun being in the lowest point in the south crux, which is a cross in the sky, and
Mhm.
it supposedly stays at the lowest point in the sky for 3 days from the winter solstice until Christmas, and that's when it raises 1 degree, and that showed the ancients that the sun was coming back up and they would bear crops again.
Yeah,
But
because those times were needed. I mean, they needed to know when it was
oh yeah,
time for some agriculture or when these certain types of animals and birds are going to come by so they can have this type of food because everything was seasonal to them in many
right,
ways. You're right. And that's why I
right.
say, like, um, it just makes me wonder, like, like you know we like you said, why do we celebrate in January? Why is the new year in January? It's cold, there's it's
I
muggy,
mean, it's not even like the beginning of the cold; it's the dead middle of the cold. Like you didn't have cold for a couple months. I mean, not in the south, it's kind of up
yeah,
and down, but for the most part, like everywhere else is cold during these months, during the couple months prior and the couple months after. So what is what would be significant about a new year beginning on January 1st?
yeah, maybe I need to look into that more. I mean, I know that from what I understand from some of the stuff that I read that I can get people to actually talk about it, they say it's because it's how the earth is just lined up, how it's just lined up with the rest of the planets and the sun is just the way it's, I guess, just lined up. That's basically how I can put it. I mean, it I don't that's
Yeah,
all.
I
I don't
gotta pull
I can't understand why
I
because
gotta pull that article up on academia, but there was a whole article about the the calculations of which one was closest, and that the 13 moon cycle was a lot closer to what all the stars and everything, what everything has to do with, um, the calculations.
Yeah, see, that's why I said I can't. I mean, I understand what they're saying, but it still doesn't make sense on why that would be celebrated by. First of all, since the beginning of time, agriculture was started by hunters and gatherers. Why would they celebrate the coldest time? You know, what would
Right,
be
right.
celebrated at that time?
Just like logic, we don't need a book. Let's just use logic for a second. We're
Yeah,
talking about what we consider the oldest type of man with hunter gatherers, and how can you hunt or gather if you don't know the seasons and what's going to happen?
exactly. Like the animals are not going to stay where it's cold at. They're going to move further down south. So why? So why are you going to be in the middle of your move? Hey, let's just celebrate the day because it's the new year. You
Right.
know, or maybe they celebrated that they about to jump ship because it got cold or something. I don't know, but you know, I mean, they maybe they trying to get rid of all their food and drinks and everything else, and saying, "Hey, we about to leave and go further south because this we know what's going to happen." Until they decided to build, their first agricultural town, city, or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, that's why I said I was like, I never understood that part. Like our calendar, like I read so many times that our calendar changed so many times throughout history, and it's just like, okay, first of all, the calendar was created because of agriculture. Why are we going past that? It worked for thousands of years. why, why change it? You know what I'm saying? And now that you change it, everybody is messed up because people sleep schedule off because, in the
Oh
summertime,
yeah.
it don't get dark until maybe what 9 o'clock 9:30 maybe in the summertime. And I mean right now, man, it gets dark here about 5:30, 6 o'clock. I'm like, dang, man, you can barely get home before the daylight start going away from you. You
You,
like,
you
dang,
can't tell me all they took was an hour. They took way more than an hour, it seems like.
don't make sense. I mean, I understand how it works. I just don't understand why our our I guess the earth uh rotates with it if they say it's because it's um an hour difference. It's not an hour difference. There's no way. I know I'm not tripping in my
Mm.
head. You know what I'm saying? Like there's
No,
no
it's
way
a major change.
I go fishing in the summertime and it's like I'd be like, yo, I can come back in I can stay out for another hour. Shoot. It's about 8:30. Shoot, I can stay out here for about another hour before I go. You know what I'm saying? And it gets dark about 9 o'clock. I'm back at the house probably about 10 because it's usually about 45 minutes to an hour drive, get to a real nice secluded spot and whatnot. And then, in the wintertime, man, nah. I gotta start getting back to about 6 o'clock. I be like, and I'm just like, man, the whole day's gone. So and like you said, it's all with common sense. It's not. I'm not trying to be like, oh man, I know something better than somebody. I know people have PhDs in these fields and they can explain it perfectly, and some people can understand it and some people can't. But experiencing it, is different than somebody telling me something. If I'm literally seeing that something is just not right because you telling me to go to this and that source, and I go to this and that source, and I see something different, and I'm like, yo, I'm confused now. You know what I'm saying? Am I missing something? Did somebody change something? Because today owning a website, man, I can change anything on my website,
Anything.
and anybody can do it, you know what I'm saying? And it'll be different. But in the books, I mean, if you unless you have the original copy, you won't know if they changed it or not. And after so much time passes, I mean, the original text done changed so many times, you won't know exactly what happened because what the very first book says is not what the book of today would say. I mean,
Right, right.
this
Like I
is
said, just the thought that Jeff Benner stresses about concrete and abstract, and people don't understand like how significant that is, trying to think in a Eastern mindset when you grew up in a Western mindset. And that's why philosophy is so important, because you got to understand like what they were thinking. Again, when we're dealing with concrete, it has to be something you can do with one of the five senses. That's how they thought. and
Mhm.
everything is related to that sense. Like when you start dealing with the etymology, you'll see that um, like cheese is related to milk is, I mean, these are related by root words.
Yeah, yeah.
Cheese, milk, skin bag, what else? There was some more.
Sure.
He had did a whole special on the like basically what it takes to make cheese curds
Mm.
and and all those what they all had in common was their root definitions, and that's more of along the lines of what Mauro Biglino and Paul Wallace follow is the root definitions. When you start getting to the root, you start seeing like a lot of the, especially when you're translating. I love comparative studies, and when you're translating like five or six different texts, and you're seeing, you can see where the change happened, especially when you have them like you got the Septuagint, and then you have the Israelite Samaritan Pentateuch. We got the Dead Sea Scrolls, the Aleppo Codex, the Leningrad Codex. When you start going through time, especially with the Latin Vulgate, you'll start seeing like where the changes occurred,
Mhm.
and then you can start piecing together, well, what was happening at this time? Oh, well, they were in captivity. They were in captivity with who? Oh, now we know they were in the captivity with the Assyrians. Well, we figure out the Chaldeans are the Aramaics, and the Aramaics were the ones who brought in the Aramaic block script. We changed from a paleo text to a more block script because it was easier to write. And then a lot of things start following in, but comparative studies is amazing. Like it really opens your eyes to like exactly around the time things start changing.
Yeah.
And again, especially with the Latin Vulgate, because they have so many words that are similar in sound, you can see how easy it was for something to get mistranslated.
Because they're
And
all based on oral traditions. Yeah.
right, right. And then you get somebody from a different language trying to translate an oral tradition, and then you get like Jeff Benner, he gives a good one in one of his courses about the
Is it?
Cinderella slipper. You know, Cinderella slipper, according to him, and some research I did on it, I've seen like people debating back and forth, but it was a Russian story that actually had to do with a fur slipper and not a glass slipper. And it was just the translation of glass and fur are so like they sound just alike. They're just spelled different. One's, I think it's Vair, one spelled with EIR and one spelled AIR. And you can see how someone can mistranslate glass for fur. And then he starts bringing up the, like, just use logic. Would someone dance at a ballroom dance in glass slippers? Would she run down steps in glass slippers? Then you think about, you know, the origin. If we're saying the origins are from Russia, we know Russians are big on fur, big fur hats, big fur coats. Why wouldn't someone have fur slippers? It's
No,
just
you're right.
logic.
Because when I was a little kid, when I remember watching that in the classroom, I was like, I was always thinking in my head, like, she gonna break them things running down.
Yeah, they're
You
gonna
couldn't
crack
say,
and cut her up.
you can't say stuff like that because people would think you just trying to be funny, but you just like that don't make sense. You gotta learn how to be quiet and keep
Right.
this.
As a kid, you're in this program that's really trying to teach you what to think and not how to think. So yeah, that's the purpose of it. But that just goes to show like how easily something can get mistranslated and how far it can go, because you try to switch that story up now, you're gonna have a hard time.
Because they gotta make the live movies. They making all the live movies. People be losing their mind when they change little things.
Yeah, right. It causes controversy.
So,
Oh, damn. What's her name is black now? The
so we
mermaid. There's no such thing as black mermaid. But then you go to the Mommy Wata. I wish I had my book.
I actually looked up the history of that, and that does go back a long ways. But you know what? The first mermaids, if you if you want to get technical, since we talking about it, that shit goes all the way back to the Sumerians. If you look at how Inky's in the water,
Right, right.
you know what I'm saying? So I'm just saying like
They
that shit.
just didn't have like, I don't know. I guess we can't find it in the text of how significant it is. I know, like my mom is Puerto Rican, and they grew up in Puerto Rico. And one thing that my grandma used to tell my mom all the time is, don't be by the beach late at night because they'll come and take you. And it's something to scare the kids, I guess, at this point. But at one point, they thought it was a real thing, and
Like
maybe they really saw some shit.
the Popo Vu got something about that. I think the Popo Vu about you can't stand next to the water. Well, men can't stand next to the water. They actually made a movie about it, La Luana or something. I can't remember. Man, I ain't even gonna try to scarf it up. I'll put it up on there later. But it's is they do have a lot of that where people can't be by water. Period. I mean, water seems to be either a danger zone or a renewal of your sins kind of thing. It was one or
But
two things.
even when dealing like another story from the Caribbeans is that the UFOs don't come from the sky; they come from the water.
Yeah, yeah, and Puerto Rico is one. It's supposed to be one of those hot spots for UFOs. I told my wife I want to head there and sit on there. I can't remember exactly where it is. I always have to look it up. I mean, it's just I can just type in Google, but
The part of the island where my family's from is Arecibo, and that's where they have the world. I don't know if it still is the world's largest satellite, but I know it once was. Um, I think the ones in Alaska are still smaller than it. It's just more, but I'm pretty sure that has a lot to do with it. There's trying to put another big satellite in Hawaii on the
yeah,
Mount Kilauea, and they're not having it though. They're standing up to that shit.
yeah,
Yeah, but there's a lot of that going on, man, all through the text.
no, I just man, I find all that stuff interesting because I don't. I mean, like I said, I don't know how to read any ancient text, so I can't say what is and what isn't. So
That's why I
eventually,
like. Oh shit, I like the yo,
yeah, I hear you.
I like the Dresden Codex because you can actually. I mean,
Yeah, I see.
the
Mayans, right?
translation of the Popol Vuh, like we're holding our hat on one person of that translation. I can't remember his damn name. I don't think it was Jimenez. Maybe it was. But our translations are just based off of pictographs, and it's hard to say that all of this is saying. I mean, and this version that I got from Amazon is this is a great version. Like
Yeah,
the
sure.
printing is real clear. Um, they show uh they show everything, but is no translation. It's literally just the yeah.
I got the same one. I got mine from Amazon. Yeah, yeah, I'm pretty sure I got it
I
from
got
them.
this one and
Matter of fact, I gotta add it up.
Toronto manuscript.
But
The Toronto manuscript. Ever heard of this one?
um, I think they have that one on the Sacred Text website. I'm
And
pretty
it's
sure.
it's the same thing. Just
Which
I
one
mean,
is
you
the?
can you can find all kind of like I know they had one. It looks like they're extracting something from the back of someone's neck, and they'll go into the theory of the pineal gland
Oh yeah,
and the whole DMT and them extracting DMT from them. But who knows what they could have been doing? Just like
that,
that picture you had shared the other day with
the
the
radiation.
radiation. Yeah,
I
it's
didn't say
like
it was radiation. I mean, I
right,
know.
right. It's
Remember,
just how they translate it, and then they run with it though. That's why I said I love how you say according to, because most people don't do that. They'll just hear some information and be like, "Well, this means that."
yeah,
No, that means that according to the person who you followed and such. But yeah,
yeah. I read that, and like it always bothered me because, like I said, I'm going back and looking through all my books and just putting on my Facebook page and group or whatnot, and I'm gonna do articles or whatnot on some of them. but it always struck me when I first read that years ago. I was like, yo, this doesn't look like radiation to me. And
It could be so much.
it could be so much. And I was just like, man, like if I look at it from like, because you said you was talking about the third eye, like that's why I said it. I mean, if I look at it from that type of idea, I can see how that could be somebody astral projecting maybe, or somebody's body, soul leaving their body or something. I mean, I mean, wavy lines doesn't mean radiation. I mean, did they even know what radiation was back then? I mean, come on. I mean, do they thought every skin disease was leprosy, and not every skin disease in the Bible is leprosy. From the descriptions, I mean, you can look them up on there. I mean, different skin. I mean, they thought every skin disease was leprosy, and there's this criteria for leprosy. And I remember looking this up a long time ago, and I think I started it because I read Robert Alter's book. I think he actually talks about how and I have to go back and read it, man. It's it's so crazy, man, with the thousands of hours of reading and researching and stuff like that. You forget where some of your information comes from, and like a week from now, you'll be like, oh, now I know where I read that at. I read it right here because I had to look them up or something. But yeah, it's it's crazy because it's just amazing that some people he said radiation, and I was like, man, what other description, or is this the whole depiction? Is there something more to it? Is there some writing towards it? Something? I mean, can you give me something where I can be like, yo, okay, I can see what you're saying. If you just throwing something together and throwing some wavy line to say it's radiation, I ain't gonna ride with that because I don't believe it. You know what I'm saying?
There's always something more to it.
And I ain't gonna sit.
Even like with the paleo script that I'm dealing with, like I deal with Jeff Benner's work heavy. Like, let me see. These are all Jeff Benner books. And I deal with this shit heavy, but that doesn't like seclude me to only believing in his work
Oh,
because
that's just
I got other translations. I've found I've been able to get okay. There's the Gabaret translation, and they believe in a little something a little different. And I was shown some evidence that is pretty strong in their case, and something that I would like to talk to Jeff Benner about. As far as like because we know that the Phoenician script, the Canaanite script, these were all basically the same. They had little minor variations, but what's minor is what we're talking about, like, just maybe two or three variations, but these two or three are significant. It's not like a little bit. And when they were showing these guys who follow this translation, they follow one guy. And the only thing, I mean, there's a lot of red flags, but one of the main red flags is none of them have the copy of the text. They're not allowed to translate the text. So that's a red flag right there. Like, so you're basically telling me you follow what he says. Like, whatever he says, it says, that's what it says.
mm,
But what they were showing was evidence of pictures, not pictures, coins, ancient coins, and some of the oldest Hebrew coins found, and what they were using as the letter Aleph. Jeff Benner says the letter Aleph was an
mm,
ox, and I can see that in the Proto-Sinaitic inscriptions, but does that necessarily mean the Proto-Sinaitic inscriptions were the Hebrew text? That doesn't necessarily mean that. Yeah, we could say that it borrowed from it, but we know that all languages borrow from each other, and we got plenty of evidence of that. But their case was strong in that. But then again, there's a guy who lives in Telluride right now. They call him Chief. He's a Black Hebrew Israelite. He's got a whole camp set up down there. Like, he lives out there. He's recognized by the Israeli state government as a real Israelite, and he's allowed to practice all this stuff and live all on the land. Um, I got a few brothers on my page who actually go out there and deal with him, but I was blessed with his translation of the Paleo script because that's what they follow. They follow the Paleo script, and it's all similar to the Israelite Samaritan script, and that's the only one that I see is like proven to be the full text. I have not seen a legitimate full text in Paleo script. other than what everyone else translates it to be. But I have compared four separate texts because I also got, where is it at? I also got this one, which I've had for a while. I saw it on Amazon years ago, and I just picked it up. It has no translation. It's literally just a script, paleo script, using more of the late version script because we'll see the aleph with the, it's like a V sideways with a line through it. So I was finally able to take this one, Jeff Benner's one, Chiefs one, and just line them all up and make sure that all the texts are pretty much the same. And for the most part, they're the same. Jeff Benner likes to use the ox head, and he uses the more ancient script, what you would call Proto-Sinaitic.
I know
But
what the said. He was talking about that on his student lessons he got. I think that's what it's called. It's on his
mhm.
or something like that. He sends it in the email when you subscribe to his website. He sends you all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, he sent you so you should have like the mechanical translation and the paleo script. Because he has one, the mechanical translation, not translated in, how to say this, in proper English. Because he'll send you it's like a $50 book that he'll send you, and it shows you the paleo script, and then underneath it'll show you his mechanical translation. But the mechanical translation is the one, like if you read it like a regular sentence, it's not going to make sense.
All right.
So you pretty much got to go in there and pick out what you want, what you think would fit where,
Mhm.
and that
And
makes it, that gives it, all
that gives everybody a different translation then, or
right. You're open to interpretation at that point. That's
yeah.
why I have, even following his regiment. Like again, I got all his texts. I corresponded all with the Strongs and the Browns, but I still come up with, it's not totally different. I mean, it's still the same narrative, but there's words that even he said, um, that he uses. Well, I guess he said he uses the word found the most, but the mechanical translation, according to him, is using the same word. You know how throughout the text you might find different words. They just, one minute this word Elohim means God, next minute it means judge, next minute it means,
Change
right,
metaphors.
right. So now he sticks to one word, and he sticks to not translating certain words like Elohim, which to me is important because
Yeah.
we've often, again, I did a
Oh,
whole show on that, whole goddamn series on the mistranslations of God.
yeah, that leaves a whole that's the whole foundation of Christianity. I mean, they believe in one God, but I mean, there's writings and recordings in there that's there's other gods. He's a jealous God. One of his names is jealous. I mean,
See, but the Christian Christian mindset is more of a Western mindset. They don't even, because by then the Greeks were in. Because if you deal with the Acts 11:26, it said they were first called Christians in Antioch. Antioch was the Hellenistic capital of the Jews in Greece. So why would they be in Greece, the place that we know, put them in captivity and basically changed the scriptures forever? Well, that's when again we got to use logic. Just use logic, piece some pieces together. It's really not that hard. Love this shit. Comparative studies is, it's fun, man. I get so excited just for one verse. Like that's why when I was out driving around, I'm doing the little delivery stuff for Walmart. So I'm looking, I seen your post. I said, "Oh, that's a good verse. Let me go see what that verse says." So of course, I'm gonna go. I'm on the phone with my girl. I'm like, open it up here and tell me what it says. And then I started seeing because I like using the Jewish Tanakh just because, went to a museum in Philadelphia, and they had this in the museum, like this is like the Almighty. So I had to make sure I went and go get it. I mean, it's okay. They got a lot of mistakes too, but they all do. They all got their mistakes. They're all gonna have it. It's too many
Yeah.
words not to have a mistake.
And if you don't have a mistake, then I'm gonna be more like, yo, I don't know about all this because this dude, this, you know what I'm saying? He think he know it all because people say know it all. People say it's not that they don't think that. I mean, people say I don't think I know, and I'm just like, no, you don't know. You only know what you think you know. And you only know as much as the information that you looked into. You keep digging, you're going to find more and more things. If you think you can make sense of all this stuff, then hey, write that book because you're gonna be a billionaire by the first day that thing hits because it's supposed to have all the information, and then there's no way because
Not
everything
even if it did though, who's gonna believe it? Or who's gonna believe you? That
that's the thing.
it wouldn't blow up at all.
That could
The
be
the
another.
the books with some of the best information and it'd be cheap as hell.
Now you're
And
right, absolutely right, man. I'm telling you, the reason why I got a Kindle, well, actually, my wife got the Kindle because she liked the book. But what I learned about the Kindle, bro, is that they give you free books online that are always going to be free. So say like your Kindle break. I know you like with the EMP or something like that, but like say it's a book that you want to buy, but you don't, or that's free on the ebook Kindle that you wanted to read, but you weren't really interested. You were like, man, I'm not gonna buy it because I don't really want it. But then you see that it's free somewhere else and you can at least read it. And you're like, okay, yeah, okay. You know, you can kind of preview some of the books. They give you free monthly books and stuff like that, like certain things and stuff like that. It's pretty. I've started to download a lot of those free books that they be giving out. And there's some of these books I had never even heard of, but it's pretty cool. Like one of them is how to read cuneiform and stuff like that. So I'm
mm,
looking at that one, and that's pretty good. And like I said, if your Kindle breaks today, I mean, all you gotta do is log into your account, and the next one it has all your stuff on there. So that's pretty good about it. I also like to use sacredtext.com. What you think about that website? I like that for stuff like
yeah,
man, books.
they always got good stuff on there. I just I like it depends on the translation because again, you'll have the Hebrew Bible, you got so many translations of that. You have so many translations of the Book of Enoch. You got so many translations of just so much stuff has
Everybody got a PhD.
multiple translation.
Everybody got a PhD in that translation too. So it's like, yo, who
Right.
which one of you PhDs had your PhDs longer? You know what I'm
That's
saying? 'Cause
that's when it's almost like all the credentials just go out the window because who's saying what now? Because y'all kind of contradicting each other.
I mean, well, y'all should if this is the word right here, y'all should be saying the same exact thing. Ain't nobody should be saying something different. No word, because a whole word can honestly change a whole entire meaning. I mean, I mean, personally,
Yeah. Just
word
like the
can,
example Jeff Banner gave with the one word changed the whole story. Right? It changed the whole story.
yeah,
And
that's why I'm glad that you got on because I was like, man, I want to compare these notes because I want to see because it's interesting because I mean, like I said, it's not about discrediting somebody. It's just now that when somebody talks about the Jacob ladder, I can be like, did you actually know that it might have meant probably a ramp instead of a ladder? I mean, it could have been a ladder, but did you know it
I
could have
wouldn't
been?
even have said probably because what I go off of is a
I do my
majority.
I do my according to things. So I would say like according to Robert Alter, he thinks it's a ramp and not a ladder. That's see,
Right, because majority of the text, and which is how I've made plain posts about this too, is people don't understand the significance of majority text when dealing with the Hebrew Bible, or and and the Greek New Testament is because we have all, back then they probably had 10, 15 manuscripts to decipher from. Since then we found so many. There's been so many um, older Bibles being found left and right, or scriptures being found left and right, and now they have more to choose from. So we'll see, like the NIV, which I think is a pretty good translation, especially compared to what everyone else used to follow in the KJV. It's way better. And then, but you'll start noticing in the NIV a lot of verses. There's over 20 some odd verses in the New Testament missing, and they'll be like, well, are they trying to take Jesus out of it, or these are significant verses? No, it's called majority text. It's called we have 1,000 of these texts. how many of them said this, how many of them said that. Whichever one said the most, that's what we're rolling with. And then when you go into like biblical Hebrew courses, you'll learn about majority text and critical text and how important the history of the text is and where a lot of this derived from. And yeah, we'll have like the most of our words come from the Germanic root. And again, we're mixing Eastern and Western philosophy, and that's why people get so confused. That's why we have so many different doctrines, because Western philosophy is abstract. We could talk all day and not describe anything.
Yeah.
Nothing we're saying is being described. Like if somebody who thinks in Western philosophy, they wouldn't understand what we're saying. Ladder, chair, airplane. They're like, what? A chair is something you sit in to give you rest. That would be their definition of a chair. I mean, that's their word for a chair. Like
Mhm.
it's concrete. I can see that it's something that I sit in and it gives me rest. That's concrete. A chair is not concrete. Not to
Yeah,
someone who doesn't know what a chair is,
because I mean, some people don't have chairs.
but that's why I've Jeff Benner's work is good. It helps with the philosophy of the concrete and abstract, and then you start realizing like not only the Hebrew Bible as opposed to American thinking, but all of the um, Eastern religions, even when dealing with Mesopotamia and all those texts, we start realizing this was Eastern philosophy. They were on a whole different thinking level than we are, and I could see why they would be a lot smarter. That runs your brain. You know what I'm saying? Like how Jeff Benner breaks it down with the Paleo script, how everything kind of like just falls into what the picture was depicting. Like there's no really right or wrong answer. So a ramp isn't wrong, a ladder isn't wrong, because they both do the same thing. They raise you. So neither one is really wrong. It's just your translation. And I don't see him being wrong at all. But it's just like when you're doing the comparative study and all I can have is one source to tell me ramp or it meant a ramp. Like none of the other sources told me, so I'm gonna stick with the latter. But it's not wrong. There's you can't no one can literally say that's wrong with the whole mindset of concrete versus abstract because a ramp and a ladder are both abstract, but they both do the same concrete thing and they raise you.
Yeah.
So there's no is really not wrong. And I guarantee you, I'm almost willing to bet money Jeff Benner's going to tell you that like
Yeah.
that.
I'm gonna ask him. I'm gonna ask him. We're supposed
I
to be.
want you to, and I want you to like record his answer because
I have one on